Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and it's been a couple weeks since we did this, but I'm joined once again by the 5-foot wonder of the world, Jill Simonello.
Who's eating almonds because I didn't realize he was getting ready to start. Sorry.
How the hell are you, Jill?
Hungry. I am hungry at the moment, actually.
It's been a minute since we did this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the big question is, you did Rebelle Rally. The audience really wants to know: have you got all the sand out of your laundry yet? Is everything picked away, cleaned up from the
I'm
8 days or 10 days in the desert? I don't know what the deal was.
I'm like, can you see the disaster on the couch behind me? There's like more on the floor. There's stuff out in the family room. I did manage to get all of my sandy clothes in the laundry. And I've kept my gear out of the house. I actually unpacked in the so there's like back stairs leading up from the garage. I actually unpacked on the back stairs because there was a lot of sand.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to give you the ball and run with it a little bit. So if people don't know the Rebelle Rally, don't know what the hell you did, don't know that you are the 5-foot one of the world, either of those questions, what did you do for the last 10 days, was it?
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks. So I left home on October 3rd, had a couple of prep days. We had our transfer to base camp on October 6th, and then we had a prologue day on October 7th, which was kind of like a test day. And that kind of decided our rankings of where we would start the next day. And then we got into the full 7 days of Rebelle. I feel like I still have sand in my lungs too. So excuse me as I'm like feeling a little bit raspy. And I will say I did take the hat. And so you've got like desert schmutz on the bill. And the top, it probably needs to be washed. But the gist of what happened was basically every morning you wake up and they give you, so there's a driver and a navigator on your team, and Kristen Shaw was my partner, and so we decided to switch back and forth every day. So the first day, the prologue day, I navigated, and that means they gave me like 30 to 35 points on the map, and they're like, then you have to take longitude and latitude and you have to plot them on a map, and then you have to navigate without GPS, without your cell phone, because they take that away, to those points. And you're looking at these little bitty maps, and they're not really well defined, and you're like, is that a road, is that a contour line, or is it a power line? So you're trying to decide what your route is to get from point A to point B to point C. And we got lost a lot. It happened.
Okay, so let me back up for a second. So Rebelle Rally is a
Mhm.
multi-day
Mhm.
overlanding kind of adventure. You do time, distance, speed, kind of figure out as
Not
far as
really.
not speed, but
Mhm.
time and distance. You're trying to get these rally points and figure out where the stuff's at. It's navigational rally, and so over
Mhm.
100 women competed,
Mhm.
two women teams, excuse me. You had a
Yep.
Hyundai Santa Cruz that you
Yep.
drove, Sandy, that we
Mhm.
documented on this channel,
Mhm.
and so you had to sleep in a desert, and you had to eat whatever rations you brought with you. Apparently, I think you did you eat the rations you had, or did you?
So basically, they provide base camps most of the time, and at base
Okay.
camps, they have a chef and his team who provide breakfast and they provide lunch, and then you're kind of on your own during the day, because what you do is you get a start time, and then on all of your checkpoints, you have a closing time. So you have to pay attention to like when your checkpoint closes. So it'll often say 3 hours after your start. So if I start at 7 a.m., that means this checkpoint is closing at 10 a.m. And then throughout the day, the closing times get closer and closer to closer. So if you're running behind, you're not going to make it. And then they give you, it's usually about 10 hours after your start time is when your base camp entry closes. So you have to get into base camp before the end of that time, or you kind of lose points. And so each checkpoint is worth a certain amount of points. They have blue checkpoints, green checkpoints, and black checkpoints. Now, the green checkpoints are going to be very obvious, probably off of the side of the road. You can see it, you know where it is, and it's a big flag. So you're like, there, I need to go there. So, and those are mandatory checkpoints. You have to get to all of those. Then you have blue checkpoints, which are optional, and those are usually worth, they could be worth, so, and the green checkpoints are usually worth about 20 points. So the blue checkpoints are worth anywhere from like 5 points to 12 points. So you kind of want to get the blue checkpoints, and then they have a flag, but they're usually hidden, or, and sometimes they get tricky, they have like a little bitty blue pole, and it's like just sitting in the ground behind a shrubbery, and you have to like go find this blue pole. But if you plotted your point correctly, you should be able to find the blue pole. Then the black checkpoints, there's no nothing, and you just have to go and stand on a spot and say, I think this is a black checkpoint. They give you a GPS tracker, and you click on the tracker, and then it'll show you your longitude and latitude points. And then you can go back to your checkpoint sheet, and you can say, yep, I think I'm close, or, oh, no, that's really far off. But you can use the really far off to figure out where you actually are, because then you go and plot it on the map. So, so that's 8 days. And somebody asked if I knew my navigator before we started, and it's Kristen Shaw, who is another automotive journalist. And so, yes, we did know each other. We actually chose to do this together, and we switched back and forth. So like I would navigate one day, she would navigate the next day. And that was really hard. I think that we decided first off, we want to do it again next year. So we didn't end up hating each other. We want to do it together again. And second, we decided that we probably shouldn't switch. So I've offered.
I mean, I have 100 questions for you. And I mean, so you decided to do the navigator driver switch thing. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, I don't know, but I understood the decision you made. So in retrospect now, was it just too challenging? You can't get in the groove, or was it? So, I mean, I understand something here going on, guys, is that driver and navigator, I got sunburned yesterday, driver and navigator are two important roles, but they're important for different ways. Mm-hmm. And so navigator's got to use, there's no phones. Nope. That's the big thing. There's you have to use a plotter.
GPS. They actually disable the GPS in your car as well.
Right. So what do you have? What's the piece you held up to the string on it? You held up to the.
Oh, so that's a compass, and so you have a compass. So a compass with a sighting mirror on it.
Okay.
And that'll get your bearings. So very often when you one of the places we navigated through was an open wash. And so the only way to find your way through the wash is to say, because there are no roads, it's just, this open, vast area. And so to figure out like where your path is, you have to, on the map, you have to say, okay, I need to go 43 degrees, that way. And then you look at the compass and you say, okay, that's 43 degrees. We need to go in that direction. So, you're looking on the map, you say 43 degrees, you get your, compass in the sight line, and you're like 43 degrees. But here's the problem. 43 degrees that way is really easy until there's a mountain or a sand dune in the way. And then you're like, what do? Because you can't go over it. You got to go around it. And so that's where we ran into some problems. And the Hyundai Santa Cruz. So first off, I have to say Hyundai did a bang up job, not only with doing some modifications to the truck, but also if you've seen pictures of the wrap that they did, that was amazing. But they gave us a 1-inch lift. They gave us a bumper bar in front of the vehicle. They gave us, so Rally Innovations provide the bumper bar, and the Rally Innovations did a custom rack on the back so that we could put our tire and our max tracks and our shovels attached to the truck bed. Then we had a light bar. I can't remember who did the light bar, but like we had a light bar that was great for when you're in sandy, dusty situations. You just turn it on, and then you're much more visible. But the 1-inch lift was really key, except for the fact that, and that was done by Trucks, which is TRUXXX. Except for the fact that it wasn't enough, especially when we were in this open wash area. So there was one day, and I was navigating, so I will take the complete fall for it. But there was one day we were in the middle of this wash, and I was just like, we need to go 43 degrees that way. But you can't get there from here. And so we kept trying to find the path that would take us in that direction. And we'd end up over here, and then we'd end up over here. But the problem was we weren't high enough to be able to see the path. And in retrospect, what we probably should have done is stop the truck and stand on top of the truck to see the path. But eventually we found a Ram 1500 and a Jeep Wrangler, and they were out there, and they were able to see the path. Like there was like no way the way we went, we would have taken, because of ground clearance, because of just, worrying about things. But the Ram was like, we'll go in front of you. And the Wrangler was like, we'll go behind you. And if you have problems, we're there to get you out of it. So one of the things that Rally Innovations also put on our truck were not tow hooks, but they were recovery hooks on the front. So, and thankfully did not need to use the recovery hooks, but they were there just in case we needed them. And but yeah, I mean, it was just the biggest challenge. I thought it was going to be camping in the flipping desert, frankly, because I don't like cold. I bought battery powered heated mittens, battery powered heated socks, and a battery powered heated blanket. I hate the cold. So I was definitely very worried about that. And that was easy. That was not a problem.
Really?
The problem was just the navigation when there are things like sand dunes in the way.
Okay.
I need practice figuring out like what is the proper way to get around those things.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've known you for years, and I've been with you in Miami or what Florida when it's 80 degrees. Still have the seat warmers on, the heat on, and I was shocked you did not have any problems with being cold. So I'm sorry, I keep backing up a little bit to kind of explain things, but so you picked up the Hyundai Santa Cruz. You're in a classification with a bunch of other people that have not body on frame vehicles, right? They're all the same classification. You camp in the desert.
Yep.
Every night. They took the vehicles from you, right?
Every night.
And so you had your gear with you. So there's a funny Instagram, like, I don't know, reel or whatever, of you carrying your gear to the airport. So let me talk about gear here for a minute. So the gear, I think, did it weigh more than you did, or was it close? Or
it was just bigger than I was. It weighed about, I think each bag weighed about 35 pounds.
Okay.
And it's funny because my husband, who is a weightlifter, he like picks up the bags and he's like, these are really light. And I was like, yeah, you're also like almost a foot taller than I am, and you're bigger. So yeah, of course they're really light. But I like couldn't get a good hand grip on them, like to hold them out like he did. So I was like, I put one over my back, and then I was carrying one, and I had my backpack on the front. But in all of that, you have sleeping bag. I didn't have my tent in there. I shipped that out ahead. But my sleeping bag, my sleeping mat, we bought a jet boil for boiling water with, in the desert. And there was just, all of the toiletry items, the camp towel, so all of that stuff, and plus 14 days worth of clothes, which, by the way, I put in gallon-sized Ziploc bags each day and label them. So that was easy to like pull out, and then you could take the smelly stuff and put it in and seal it. But I want to talk a little bit about the classification a bit, because we finished last. So I'm just going to put that out there. We finished last. We were in the X-Cross class, which is the non 4x4, non-body on frame. But there were only 8 of us in that class. And we finished with, I think, and the way they score you is how many checkpoints you get. And we got like 61% of the checkpoints over an 10-day period or an 8-day period. The team, and there were 3 rookie teams. And the team that finished just ahead of us, the driver was a rally car driver. So we were the least experienced people there. And I felt pretty good that we only finished like 5 points behind a rally car driver. However, if you had taken everybody and put them all in the same class to look at the percentages, we would have fallen at the middle of the pack. In the 4x4 classes, there were a lot of people who only had like 29%. Wow. So,
that's a great point. I mean, I was following along as close as I could, and I was like, come on, girls, come on, give me something. I was trying to eloquently like say they're doing pretty well, and because I didn't know, because there's no contact with you and me the entire 8 days. Thank you, Lord Jesus, for that. But yeah, so we had plenty of time. But yeah, I was surprised by it. I want to share something with you though. I want to share my screen because I have a where's it at? It's a Chrome tab. There it is. I want to know about this comment you made in this video.
Oh. The first few days at the Rebelle, what do I expect that to be like? A lot like Naked and Afraid.
So
I'm a rookie and I'm nervous about it.
I want to play the rest of the video because the video, not play the rest, but play more of it. But really, Jill, Naked and Afraid was your. I mean, that was the first. That's it. This is the Rebelle Rally highlight video, and Jill's going, I feel like I'm naked and afraid. Like what?
Well, okay. So by the way, you gotta love video editors because they totally pulled that out of context because they were asking, what do you think that this is going to be like? And it's funny because I literally had just gotten off the phone with my sister and she's like, hey, at least it's not naked and afraid. She's like, at least you have clothes. And I was like, hey, yeah, at least I have clothes. So they asked me this question, like literally after I get off the phone with my sister, and they're like, what do you think this is going to be like? And I said, oh, well, it's going to be like naked and afraid. And I'm like, just kidding. And I said, at least I'm going to have my clothes. But I'm like, I expect to be lost a lot. That was like kind of the end of that sentence. But yeah, naked and afraid. And I was just like, of course, that's what they would pull. Yeah.
So I want to play a little bit more of this.
It's about the unknown. Getting lost, the unknown. Yeah, the unknown.
There's our truck.
I'm addicted to this, obviously. I don't know how many times you have to do it to form the addiction, but it's obviously there.
I mean, the scenery here is just incredible.
I mean, where else do you have over 100 women who are competing in such a long endurance event that?
Yep, Lynn Woodward is a good friend of ours too.
Level, mentally, physically, emotionally.
There's Kristen.
Welcome to the 7th Rebelle Rally. Congratulations.
I mean, it was amazing scenery.
So I want to question you for a minute. So you get there and you see a bunch of tents.
Oh no, there are not a bunch of tents. We had to pitch our tents.
You had to pitch your tent, and you had one main tent doing the presentation, right?
So the main first presentation was actually in a hotel in Lake Tahoe. So we started out in a hotel, and that was like pre-tech day. So what's really interesting in this, they took us through pre-tech, and that's like making sure you have your medical kit, making sure you have a fire extinguisher, making sure you have the appropriate helmets. And so just making sure you have all of the required items in your truck, making sure your GPS is disabled. And then they put all these like the sponsor stickers on your vehicle. And so pre-tech was at a hotel before we transferred to the camp. And so, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see in the middle there where there's a big white tent in the middle. And that was the main area where we ate food, did our plotting in the morning. We had our morning team meetings and things like that. But yeah, so we had to pitch our own tent.
Yeah, look at that.
I come from a desert racing background, and it took me a little bit
come over here, you too, but
adjust
that's Shelby Hall.
I've
interviewed her a few times
because it is
Hall Racing
her
family.
grandfather is Rod Hall, famous rally racer.
There's your compass with the what did you say that was with the string?
It's just just kind of
about the rally being based
Okay.
on navigation and endurance. I like that a lot better. I've never had a need for speed, so it kind of seemed like a unique opportunity.
There I am.
Straight, or if we
Yep.
want to turn left.
Is that
Right.
a pink hairnet or what's going on?
Out
Pink?
there,
Pink hair.
in the
Okay,
desert,
pink hair.
practicing, doing all the things we've practiced, and like finally just doing it.
It's amazing to be able to find a point on the earth.
So you guys are doing this every morning, right? Looking at the map, plot points, then you go, right?
Rebelle really
And you have
blends a lot of
defined
my
start
interests,
times.
being outside, driving,
and then
the
you
technical
have
aspects
so
of
much time
navigation
to
and just a
get
sense
your
of
points.
adventure.
And this is Nevada through
Just,
California,
getting to
right?
learn what the
Through
cars
Nevada
can
and
do
California,
out
yeah.
there.
Okay.
It's like getting to learn new features of a tool. So that's another aspect of it that I really love.
Nice little crawl. People ask, is it fun? I'm like, well, it's like running a marathon is fun because it's so rewarding.
Hey, by the
because
way,
it's
running
so
a marathon
challenging.
is fun.
And the course is beautiful. Emily Miller gives us 8 days of Nevada and California beauty, and we get to see it in our windshield every day.
Except for those trains. Those were not fun. They would go all night long, and every 15 minutes, I'm like, oh!
So if you're on the podcast, you're not seeing the scenery. The only thing I can describe is probably the most beautiful Western scenery
really
you've
want
ever
each
seen.
stage
Any
to
Hollywood
feel
movie,
different every
any
day. We
production
want
you've ever
each
seen,
stage
this
to
is
have
what they
its own
drove through.
personality.
Yeah.
An
We're
abandoned,
learning,
looks
we're
like
enjoying the
abandoned
journey.
houses,
We are getting
buildings.
to see landscape that most people in the country don't get to see, and it's unreal.
I'm always trying to string a course together that's fun to drive, visually impressive, taking them places they'd never go on their own.
Oh, the scenery's spectacular.
That was a mom. So the mom and daughter drove together.
Yeah. There were sister teams, mother-daughter teams.
And always has to remind me to look up. I was like, it's beautiful. Oh yeah.
It was very cool. There were a couple of journalist teams.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out that everybody who got first, second, and third, like they've all done it before.
What are you guys looking for?
Yeah.
A trail.
A trail.
I mean, it seems like a competition you have to do a couple times. It's unique
You're
that
pulled in
to
so many
that
different
degree.
directions that this is really an opportunity to stay focused and put all of your effort toward one thing. And that one thing just happens to be unbelievably challenging.
The Rebelle allows the competitors to see their own potential.
This appeals to me because
Yeah,
it's
so it's dark
helping
in
me
the morning
learn
when you
something
start.
new and
You have, like,
challenge
a
myself in
headlamp,
ways that I've never
Yeah,
done
let's see.
before.
Yeah.
Having them out there on their own, relying on their own wits for 8 days, you really kind of come
Those are my
to terms
shoes.
with who you are as a person.
Are they?
Did you stand right on it?
I see that.
It's almost like this other like element of myself is revealed, this new thing that I can work on, this new thing that I can tackle for the year ahead. And it's not just in relation to the rally, but in relation to everything in life.
Personal growth and like keeping things fresh and new and adventurous and moving and growing, and a lot of verbs.
The video editing on this was spot on.
I mean, and it's just like,
Well, I've learned to do
yeah,
that.
it was amazing. There's a team from
I know
Rivian.
that the biggest part
Couple teams
is the
from
learning
Rivian.
experience. You know, it's about what we're going to do on the journey, not just how we finish.
Kind of sucks. The Rebelle is something that continues to give the whole year or years. It's life changing. So for us, if you're not having fun, you're not going to gain the experience that we need.
Hey, something for you.
It looked like baseball to me, but all right.
And a little tennis. Never hurt anyone, right?
It's hard to believe that we're 7 years in to this. It was kind of this crazy idea from the get-go.
So yeah, that green flag is like the flag that you would be going towards.
You know, I keep coming back because the Rebelle leaves me emotional. The connections you make with the other competitors is incredibly unique.
It's about lifting each other up. Yes, we're competitors, but we want the best for
I think
each
she's
other.
won every year, Nina Barlow.
Oh, Nina's. I mean, that's what she does every day.
The thing that I love about the Rebelle is people come from all walks of life, all ages, all places, but now you are part of the community and no one can take that away from you. You are a Rebelle.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
They made a sticker of me and it's a surprise and I didn't know.
I don't think there's anything like the Rebelle Rally as far as the community support that's out there. It's amazing, and it's how it should be. It's the goal for the planet.
This is so good.
You're standing like over here. Oh, yay. We love each other, I swear.
So the thing is the tracker, and if you don't click it close to the post, you could get.
No point. Okay.
Or breaks it. I can't wait to do this with my mom. There's no one else that I'd rather do it with. This is a once in a lifetime experience, and I'm really happy to get to share it with her.
She's
It was
teaching me
beautiful.
so much. I can't believe it. I just have to trust her.
There's skill sets that you have, but then you need to figure out that,
Listen to that.
right? So you need to develop
You do the
a
max tracks?
relationship with that
Oh,
other
yeah.
person and get that
Yep.
trust.
Fixing you for the picture.
You don't want to see my butt crack? I don't want to see your butt crack.
My dad said it to us at the very first year to my partner and I. This is your marriage for the next 8 days. There's going to be times where it's awesome. There's going to be times where it's really hard. And you are going to have to work together through all of it. You don't get to just quit and walk away.
My teammate is killing it, crushing those black diamonds.
They're
What's
sisters.
it like spending 7 days in the car with Sarah Lynn? Well, no.
There are 34 checkpoints. Impossible to get them all, but we're going to get as many as we can.
We're Team Wild Grace for a reason, because this is a wild ride, and you have to give grace, because something is going to happen to either one of your teammates. Just give grace, and you'll get through to the finish line.
Ha! Hey, keep me hanging.
That was marathon night where we did not have a base camp.
Oh, man.
I love this video.
The first year, we didn't know what to expect. Nobody did. And in a way, it kind of felt like ladies playing in the desert. And it was neat. But now we've really, in the course of these last few years, have elevated this into a world-class competition.
Cheers.
Like at the finish line, thumbs up.
This event has turned into its own entity. It's got its own personality. It's got its own soul.
I've done so many great things in my life, so many amazing adventures. This is the top.
I just need to kind of absorb what just happened.
It was a whole bunch of awesomeness that happened. Teamwork. Yeah, baby.
I definitely feel like it's brought us closer. We understand each other a little more. So rad.
My hope for all the competitors is that you can take all these crazy experiences, all the learnings, all the things that you've gone through, all the places you've seen, and then be able to apply that to life.
You got it!
Now that we've done it, we can do anything. We can do anything.
But I have to say, like, one of the coolest moments of the rally. So, because of the low ground clearance of the Santa Cruz, the sand was a little bit tough. And if you slow down at all, like, you sink right into the sand. So the first time we sunk into the sand, Chris and I were able to dig out by ourselves, use the max tracks.
Hold on. Apparently, Nickelback was going to play next.
But the second time I got stuck, like the blue flag was like on, I'm like trying to start my hand, like on this basin here, and we were over here, and you had to go down to go back up to get to the flag. So we went down and didn't have enough momentum and could not get back up. And so we were stuck. And we had made some friends during training of a whole bunch of other rookies, and they were standing up on the ridge and they saw us get stuck, and they're like, they each grabbed a shovel and they were running down the hill and they're like, we're coming. And it was just like quite literally it made me cry. It was the coolest moment of the rally. Just the amount of like help and teamship and bonding. And it was really super cool. And I was kind of looking at some of the comments in the stream, and Todd was asking, or not Todd, it was Tyler was asking if these trails are anyone can drive on, and they are. It's public land. There's an amazing amount of public land in California and Nevada that I just never knew existed. There were times we were riding like along power lines. I had no idea there are actual roads, well, not real roads, but like dirt roads that are very rutted along power lines, and anybody can drive on those. And I live in Chicago, so dirt. What? Where's dirt here?
Right.
But yeah, so there a lot of it was all public land. Everything we drove on, trails anybody can go on. So Manuel asked if it's it's the longest rally in the U.S., but it's not a race, and that's correct. So you have a time to get stuff done. So like I said, if I'd started at 7 a.m., I had 10 hours to get back to camp. So I had to be back at camp by like 5 p.m. So that was the timing, but it wasn't, they give us speed limits. They're saying you can't drive more than 75 kilometers per hour, and they're tracking you. So they know if you're driving more than 75 kilometers per hour, which is about, I want to say like 55 miles per hour. But so they know if you're speeding. So the idea is you look at the list of checkpoints and you're like, okay, this one's going to be really hard to get. This one's going to be a little bit easier to get. This one's worth a lot of points. And you have to make decisions about how much time you have to get which checkpoints. And so sometimes you sacrifice a gimme point, like a blue checkpoint that you're going to find a flag at, for a black checkpoint, because the black checkpoint has more points. So you're making decisions about the points you want to get, the time that it closes. So you have to get there by a certain amount of time. And yeah, so, and you get penalties if you click your tracker and you're not near a checkpoint. They call that a wide miss. And what it does is it gives you your longitude and latitude. So then you can plot it on the map and you can see how far away from where you should be you actually are. And then you can get penalties for unsportsmanlike conduct. You can get penalties for speeding. You can get penalties for any number of things. And our penalties were all wide misses. So we were clicking the tracker when we were nowhere near where we needed to be.
And so the end story and all this stuff is that you want to do it again.
Yep. And I was afraid Kristen wouldn't want to do it again, because we got done and she was just like, I just need to process this for a couple days. I'm like, we need to do it again. And she's like, we didn't do well. And I'm like, no, we didn't do well in the X-Cross class. But if you look at overall, we were right in the middle of the pack. We navigationally, I think, killed it. It was just because there were only 8 people in our class that it was really hard to do well. And we were some of the only rookies. So I'm like, I think we did really well. I think that we can tweak it a little bit. Don't switch back and forth for the navigator and the driver. Do a little bit more dunes training, do a little bit more navigational training in the dunes. And I'm like, I think we can do a lot better. We may not podium, because I feel like the people who were podium in both classes were either, they call them OGs, original Rebels. So they've done this for 7 years, or they've done it a lot. Like I think Lynn Woodward, she podiumed in the 4x4 class. And I feel like this is maybe her 4th or 5th year having done it.
She's had lots of experience with doing that. So did you find navigating or driving was the better thing for your skill set?
Driving was easier. So I don't know if that makes it better or not. But what Kristen and I found is that it was a team effort, both in driving and in navigating. Okay. And so whether she was navigating or I was navigating, like I would get to a point, and so we have like magnifying glasses to look at these horrible maps. To kind of see if we can find the roads, if we can find whatever. And I was very precise with my plotting. So I feel like I was really good on that, but sometimes I couldn't see like where the road was or where the trail was or where the path was. And so we would stop at a place and I'd be like, okay, this is what I see. What do you see? And then as you're reading the map, I'd be like, okay, I think at 3.6 kilometers, there should be a path coming in from the right. And if the path wasn't coming in from the right, I'm like, hold on a moment. Let's stop and take a look at this. Because if there's not a path coming in at the right, are we at the wrong place? And sometimes you're not in the wrong place, but the path is just overgrown and you can't see it. So, but working together and really talking through the challenges. And, so like when one of us was driving, we would look at something, we're like, we actually need to get out of the vehicle and look at this and see if the Santa Cruz can go over it. And I don't know when it happened, but we did do a pretty hard knock on the Santa Cruz at one point. Didn't even realize it until the end of the rally because the vehicle was fine, but the bumper bar below the front bumper caught the brunt of the force of whatever it was that we hit. And so the bumper bar has a huge dent in it. But we didn't lose our bumper, and we would have lost our bumper if we'd hit it without that. And again, that was Rally Innovations, and both Rally Innovations, the engineer, and then the engineer from Hyundai met us at the finish line. So that was really cool. And then Lori Scholes from Hyundai, who's on the PR team, she came to the Revelation, the final party. So, I mean, the support we had from all of our sponsors was just tremendous. And I feel like somebody in there had asked me about the Bose headphones and music. Well, okay, so here's the thing. I had Bose headphones, but no phone. I didn't have anything that I could sync them to because they take all that away. So Bose provided us a USB stick with music so we could listen in the car. But I used the headphones for noise canceling in the morning when I was plotting because like
chaos. You're trying to
like chaos. Everybody around you talking, eating breakfast. How are you doing? What's going on? Asking people questions. And I'm just like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just need to get this started. So I would put, when it was my turn to navigate, I would put the Bose headphones on and it just kind of, quieted everything out a little bit. And so it was very, very cool. Another question from Manuel, and I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Manuel, sorry. Did the 4x4 class take a different route? On some days they did, not every day. On a lot of days we had exactly the same route. But what they would do with both the X-Cross class and the 4x4 class is they would give you the same checkpoints, but they would put them in different orders so that you would go a different way. So very often you'd be crossing people like this and you're like, did they get the checkpoint in a different order or am I going the wrong way?
Oh.
But there was one day in particular that the 4x4s did get a different route through the mountains, and it was going to be very steep inclines and things that the Santa Cruz couldn't handle. But I think pretty much every other day we had the same checkpoints and the same route.
So it's such an interesting event you went to. It's good to get the word out that there's events like this. I'm fascinated to learn even more from you in coming months, and as you start decompressing and start looking at stuff. I mean, you're gonna look at your gear a little differently now, probably the way you packed, and I'm sure you're gonna make a little changes here and there. And
we had a portable refrigerator. I can't remember who it was from, but Kristen secured that. And I both loved it and hated it because it was great at the end of the day to have a cold, like sparkling water because you plug it in, and that was amazing. But it literally took up all of the space behind the passenger. And so, in thinking about gear, it's like, okay, do we want the portable refrigerator or do we want, something to boil water with when we,
right.
when we have no provisions. But yeah. So, I mean, for me, I feel like I packed pretty well. The only thing that I brought that I didn't use was a fleece liner for my sleeping bag because I used the heated blanket instead. So I didn't need both of those things. Yeah. But otherwise, like I wore every single piece of clothing that I brought. I used every piece of gear or equipment that I brought. We probably also had too many snacks, but both Kristen and I have a little bit of food paranoia. The idea of being stuck in the middle of the desert without food and water was definitely a little bit daunting. So I feel like we could probably go a little bit lighter on the snacks. But we both had, so Kristen was doing an elimination diet. So she was like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free, nut-free. Like she was everything free, and I'm gluten-free and dairy-free. And so I called our car the no fun car because we had all of the like gluten-free pretzels and that's it bars and apples and oranges and celery sticks. So yeah.
Wow. So you want to do it again?
Yeah.
So, some Manuel asked, what vehicle would you like to use? We're going to use whatever vehicle they're going to sponsor us with. That's the key. So,
well, yes, but, I've already been approached by a couple of other manufacturers. Kristen has been approached by a couple of other manufacturers. So we have options, but I thoroughly enjoyed working with Hyundai, and I really feel like they get the first right of refusal. If they enjoyed working with us and they thought it was a good partnership, I would like to work with them again. I think I would probably want an SUV instead of a pickup truck this time because everything in the pickup truck bed was coated with dust. I mean, there was silt and dust everywhere. Even though you have a tonneau cover, it just doesn't keep all of that dust just seeps in everywhere. So I would probably want to go for a pickup truck or an SUV. And I don't know if I would want like the Santa Fe or the Tucson, looking at Hyundai, but maybe the Tucson because something smaller has a better turning radius. But I mean, it would need modifications again. Like we would have to do a lift, and I want that the bumper bar again. That was totally clutch. But and then you have to figure out where to put the spare tire and all of that stuff. But yeah, so I really enjoyed working with Hyundai. I hope they enjoyed working with us. And I would probably go there first.
So now when you look at an off-road vehicle and you look at like the people modifying vehicles now, it seems like now you get it that much more because you've been there. They put the bigger bumper on. They put the tire somewhere else. They
get it from a practical standpoint, but I don't get it if you're just like, I just want this. And it's just like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, if you're just modifying it for looks, like, that doesn't make sense to me. If it has a practical issue, like, you know, a Toyota Tundra that doesn't have tow hooks and you want tow hooks, like, that makes sense to me. But, because, you know, you might get stuck doing off-road stuff. But yes and no. So I get the modifications, but I don't get the modifications.
Okay, so that's Jill's Rebelle Rally recap in 40 minutes and 7 seconds. So, nice and
I clearly had a lot to say. Thank you to the 32 people who have stuck with us through this. Hopefully we'll get some people listening after the fact. But I just, yeah, I had a blast. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I did things I didn't think I could do. You know, and Tim knows, like, whenever we go on press programs, they do everything for us. They plan the route for you. They tell you where to drive. You get stuck in the sand, they come dig you out. They put the max tracks under. All you have to do is, you know, sit still, look pretty. And so, you know, this was just a whole nother experience, because you're on like the greatest press program ever, but you are responsible for your health and well-being, the health and well-being of your truck, and you know, the health and well-being of your partner and your fellow participants. And you know, the thing that amazed me over and over again was just how willing people were to help. You know, from before the rally, where like I bought a jet boil and didn't realize you couldn't travel on a plane with propane canisters. Didn't occur to me. But you can't. So like somebody was like, oh, I've got extra propane canisters. I can bring them for you. And it's not even anybody that I knew. It's just, you know, somebody who like was trying to be helpful. Yeah. And, you know, and to the girls who are running down the hill with the shovels, to anybody who offers advice about the bags you should pack. I mean, just the camaraderie and the friendships and the amazing support and the network. And I mean, there are some of these women that I never see again, but I will consider them friends for life. And I don't know. I could probably talk for another 42 minutes. I won't. I'll stop talking now because somebody wants to talk about the Ford Lightning.
I would just say this because I don't know. I told Jill before she went, I was excited for things she was going to learn. And she got upset with me because she thought I meant about her off-road driving. I do not question
damn
Jill.
Good driver, damn it.
Off-road driving. What I was excited about was all the other things, like the friendships, the teamwork, the real life experiences of saying, you know, 1-inch lift is cool and all, but you know, really, come on, guys. I mean, that's stuff I thought was really valuable doing this experience, because you had all this new experiences that you can now, I think in the future, apply to future reviews. You can look at a Kia Sportage or something like that, or Hyundai, whatever, and go, you know what? The off-road tires are pretty capable, but there's not enough ground clearance. There's not enough this or that or whatever. You have a lot more experiences now. I think it's just fantastic. You can share with the audience.
Well, and what I really appreciated too is there were a lot of people out there, and some of the videos that we did with the Hyundai Santa Cruz are like, oh, the Hyundai Santa Cruz isn't an off-road vehicle. And I'm like, let's talk about that. Yeah, because I mean, in the right situation with the right driver, I mean, you can't go balls to the wall and drive like you're in a 4x4, you know, a Jeep Wrangler that has, you know, 20 inches of ground clearance. No, you can't drive like that. But you can do some pretty wicked things in the Hyundai Santa Cruz. I feel like my I want to write a review of how the truck did, and I feel like the first line of my review is going to be, this truck can do tough shit.
You just got to pass it by the boss to say the shit word. All right, moving on. So
I thought I was the boss.
So things happened while you were gone.
They did, in fact, happen while I was gone. Funny how the world did not stop.
It is shocking how that worked out with that. So we did. So Phil and I carried the torch. We went to Kentucky. We did I went to Kentucky. He met me in Dallas. We did heavy duty stuff for like a whole week. We did the state fair stuff. I actually finally got a corn dog at the state fair of Texas because it finally was open the day after my family down there at the state fair. We went to all the barns in the state fair except for the swine barn. I felt like that was probably not a place I really wanted to go into. It's not something that smells good. Anyways. But yeah, so while you're gone, I went deer hunting. I got a doe. My brother did not get his buck, which sucks. But and then we had the Ford Lightning that arrived that I did not perceive would be anywhere close to as popular as it's being. Do you know I got stopped 1, 2, 3 times in town by people who wanted to see us with the Ford Lightning. VCG Construction gave you $20. Look at that, Jill.
Thank
VCG
you.
Construction, by the way, those guys, great channel. I've been following those guys for years. I was doing stuff with Tundra Do 34. I found them over there. Great channel. I watch this all the time. So, anyways, thank you for that, the super chat with that. So yeah, I had the Ford Lightning. I put 220-volt outlet outside the house because 1 ton clearly sucks for that. 4 days of charging versus overnight was a big difference. I've given people around.
That's the same with any electric vehicle. You remember when I had the Mustang Mach-E, it took me 3 days to get it up to 100% from 30%.
Yeah, so it's been interesting to talk to people about it. Done a ton of videos about that. Cody and I did a video, and he demanded we did a video. Cody's my 10-year-old, and thought the video turned out pretty cute, so that worked out pretty well. But yeah, so lots of stuff happening with that Lightning. So there you go. Boy, I did my recap in like 2.5 minutes.
Okay, so I've got questions for you then.
All right, flip this around. You're gonna question me.
You did in fact put your golf clubs in the frunk.
I did for the primary purpose. I thought, Jill's on my shoulder. She wants to know if the golf clubs fit in the back.
Oh, I know they fit, but the question is whether or not you're going to do it. We took a trip, and you're like, man, I never put my golf clubs in the front. That's just stupid.
It is weird. No, I mean it's a little different. I mean, so I did put my golf. So this is what happened. I put my golf clubs in the front because I figured what the hell it's there. By putting my golf shoes in the rear seats.
Why?
Primarily because I had running boards and rear seats. I could bend over my little belly situation. I could bend over and tie my shoes without having to do the front. And also because I wanted to mess with my golf buddies by opening my front up there and pull my golf clubs up. So, but the Ford has a flat loading floor. Right.
2 golf clubs in there.
It was. So this happened. So my friend Russ was there, and we were going to play golf, and there's 4 of us. And so he was going to join the cart with me. And he was like, he parked next to me, and I was like, hey, you have your bag, I have my bag. I'm going to shoot a quick YouTube short on will it actually fit? Because my golf bag is not a pro tour size bag, but it's not. So golf bags come in different sizes. There's what's called a Sunday bag, which is really small. You carry a couple clubs with you. That's fine. It's just meant for like a really casual round, carry 3 clubs, whatever. There are carry bags like that have like legs to them. And they're a little bit skinnier. And then I bought a new bag that was a cart bag. A cart bag is actually bigger, and throw bag's even bigger than that. So I had a cart bag. He has a cart bag. And my cart bag, I swear, did not fit. Did not fit at all. It barely fit. I had to put the driver down my hand and shove it down a little bit. So he had his bag. He's like, I'm gonna throw it on there too. And I was like, well, I don't know. So then I grabbed my phone and did a video, quick YouTube short on that. It didn't go down the first time. And I actually posted on, check it out, Jill. I posted on TikTok as well. Oh,
I saw it on TikTok.
I was really branching out here. And so it did not fit. And then we massaged his bag, meaning we pushed down like on it a little bit, and then we were able to close it. So it is actually possible to have 2 golf bags in the front of the truck. So I actually did use the front as much as I could because I figured, why not? I have the truck. I'm going to use it. So Cody and I went to the grocery store. We put groceries in the front. I will tell you that when you're driving around with groceries in the front of your truck and the front, you tend to drive more defensively. The last things you want are eggs like crashing on the front of your truck. So it wasn't those
eggs in a trunk or a front. Whenever I buy eggs, they are always in the front seat with me.
He was in the front seat with me.
Okay, then the person who's in the front seat with you holds the eggs.
I felt better with it being in the front than being a 10-year-old's hands.
Nope.
But you drove a little bit differently. So I didn't do 0-60 burnouts, that kind of stuff. And so, so it was interesting how it worked out. So I don't know. I did not use the rear seats as much as I usually do in a full-size truck. I usually put stuff back there all the time. In this case, I did not use them. So I kind of think to myself, like, they really could do a regular cab in this truck and Lightning because the rear seat room is really where you're storing stuff anyways, or passengers.
The rear seat room is for passengers.
Occasionally. All right. So I did think that we could do like a regular cab with the front and be fine. There you go. So I did that. I did a lot of EV haters. I took my neighbors, right? They're all not loving the stuff. And so we went for drives and a lot of good conversations. I did a video today, didn't do as well as I wanted to in views, but I kind of share with those people that share with me and their concerns like range and towing and that kind of stuff. And I feel like the biggest story I had from this week was a couple things. Is that number one, the Ford Lightning right now is in the Model T era of trucks.
Mhm.
This is just beginning, and I feel like that really helps people calm down. This is not this Lightning you're seeing right now is not the end story. It's not the end result. It is just the beginning of what is going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It's not it may not work for you today, and it's not going to work for you everybody today. That's okay. This is just the beginning. I was thinking back, think of like 1908 or 10. Think if Facebook existed, all the horses that are like hauled Model Ts out of the ditch, we'd have so many memes about how terrible the Model T was, right? I mean, that's just what happened. And so we're at that initial stage. I did find that I have concerns about the truck still. I mean, I still have like, will it make a concern? So I'm going to share something on the screen with you because I want to share with the audience a story here. And it's not it's the fact that we are going to a wedding on Saturday. And so here's the deal is that I was thinking we were going to swap today with the Grand Cherokee 4xe and go to this wedding. Well, it turns out I was wrong. I have the Lightning until next Tuesday. And so I'm going down to a wedding. And then on the way back, this is the way back, we're going to swing through Sydney and pick up our son at a pumpkin patch thing with his friends at 1 o'clock. So the mileage is currently 257 miles. On a full charge with the Lightning so far, I've gotten 257 miles of charge. So this is max. So this is my next video coming because it's concerning. Now, so when we go down, we don't go through Sydney, so it should be getting the hotel just fine. Find a supercharger down in a Parker, which right across the street. Well, just a few minutes away, there's a supercharger. So not concerned with that. Charge overnight kind of deal. But what I think about was when you click this button that says EV charging, it's amazing how Google changes. So what's interesting with this map is if you're listening to podcasts, if you go on Google Maps, this is the fundamental shift in my head. Google Maps says, hey, this is how fast you'll get there. It talks in time. With an EV, time doesn't really matter. It's about mileage. I want to know how many miles it is because I'm going to take more time with the EV. It's just what I'm going to end up doing. And so I was like, all right, well, I can't do that. But then on Google Maps, you can click EV vehicle charging. And it turns out there is a charging in the middle of the map, which is Fort Morgan. There's a Tesla supercharger in Sydney, Tesla supercharger in Fort Morgan, and we can't use those currently because they haven't opened the network up quite a bit. So our plan is we're gonna think of this thing through a little bit differently. We're gonna have to leave Parker Hotel Sunday morning, like at 10, drive to Fort Morgan, have lunch at the Maverick gas station, bring the lunch over and plug in for a good hour or so, eat lunch, and then be able to continue on our way and get there by 1 o'clock. So I think the thing with EVs in the rural environment, because I'm an edge case, I really am an edge case for EV adoption, is you have to flip your thinking around a little bit differently. That just you have to take your time. You have to leave a little bit earlier. You have to charge a little bit more. But the reality of things is I can drive from my house to Parker, go to the wedding, come back, and I'm probably going to spend about, if I was home charging, like $15. So that trip is 257 miles plus another 250, so 500 miles. So it'd be over $100 or so in gas, or I spend $15 in electricity fees. But I have to spend a little more time and plan things out differently. And I'm a man, I admit to it, I hate planning. I want to get up my truck and go. And so this is an interesting question coming in our heads. Like, I think we can do this. I think so. This is going to be the coming next week, is that can I actually make it down and back? Because this is pushing that vehicle. The other thing you realize is that Denver is at 5,280 feet. I'm at almost 4,000 feet. So I'm going to drive uphill to get to Denver and then downhill to get back home. And when I picked this vehicle up, I flew into Denver. I picked it up at the airport. I drove to Cheyenne to go to Sam's Club because we have a Sam's Club membership. Once a month, I try to go down there and fill up our freezers and fill up our pantry. And then I drove back home, and I drove through a town called LaGrange, which you can see on the map. It's just basically left of where I get home. And from LaGrange, from Cheyenne to LaGrange and back home, there ain't nothing. There's a bunch of cows. I saw some deer and antelope. There's a bunch of cornfields, and there's nothing. So I made it home with 20 miles of range. And I will tell you, that was the most stressful I've ever been. I actually turned off the radio and the AC as I'm heading home. And I had to roll down the window because I'll be honest, I was so stressed. My pits were like going crazy. I'm like, had my hands up the windows trying to cool off while I'm trying to make it home. And like, because there's nothing. Like going through my thought process, I have friends with like generators, but a diesel generator give me 2 to 3 miles per hour. So I'm talking like 2 hours of sitting there charging with a diesel generator or calling a tow truck. So this next adventure is going to be a really interesting adventure. And this is not something I don't do regularly. I mean, I go to Denver a couple times a year. This is something I expect my vehicle to do. And so, yeah, I could stop in Boulder and pick up Andre from TFL. It'd be interesting. He could have the diesel Cummins help me rescue me when I'm getting stuck. But yeah, so that's the next question. Next going down the line, I've done 110 charging. I installed 220 this week, which thank goodness I have friends who have master electricians to be able to install that stuff because it saved me $1,000. But I've done charging, I've done benefits of it, I've done a ton of videos. And it's interesting because I think fundamentally what I'm seeing in the comments and in person is a generational shift. People younger than me are approaching. I was in restaurants this week. I was in a few different restaurants. I was at the grocery store, whatever. People younger than me approached me, want to talk to me about the truck. They maybe recognize, one guy recognized YouTube. The other guy's kind of different, which I don't really, whatever. It's YouTube. And so they want to talk about this stuff. They were really interested. And like I post a video and the comments are like just completely anti-EV and just, oh my God, what a piece of crap, all kind of stuff. And I'm thinking like, this really isn't for you. And it really dawned on me and really settled in really hard in my head that I don't care what marketing says. EVs are not for everybody at this time of day.
Not at this moment.
No, not this moment. But eventually they could be, because I was like, look,
to be.
Well, I said, you look at cell phone technology. If we can get EVs with the same as cell phone technology, you can get imagine this in a sphere of the cell phone, right? And the iPhone, how much the things have changed. So if you take that with a vehicle, you could 5, 10, 15 years, whatever, you can have an EV that gets 2,000 miles of range that costs like $20 fill up. Like, I don't know what dude out there is not doing the math in his head when they have $100 fill ups. We're all doing the math. It's just, it doesn't work quite right. EVs don't work quite well right now. But when you start talking about real benefits, and then if we can get battery pricing down, you go to a dealership and say, well, I get the gas F-150 or get the EV F-150. Difference is about $2,000. But the EV gets 2,000 miles of range for $15, but the gas one gets 500 miles of range for $90. That's gonna be like, okay, that's a no-brainer, right? That's what happened to cell phones, right? Cell phones became like a no-brainer. You had to have one. I think the same thing's happened with EVs. Do I love EVs? Am I enamored by the truck? It's fun to do 0-60. I've had people like grass. So there's a thing. So my friend told me, he goes, a friend of his took a Camaro like back in 1980, took it all the way down to its frame, rebuilt it back up, put all the supercharged stuff in it. He put a $50 bill up on the dash and said, if you can reach that, it's yours. And hit the gas. Well, but with inertia and stuff, you couldn't reach the $50 bill because you're pinned back in your seat, your arms, whatever. I can do that in normal mode with the F-150 Lightning. And sport mode, you basically can't even breathe. And it's insane how fast it goes. And I was telling my friends who rode me, I said, look, the biggest thing with EVs is that as long as you can keep the rubber on the rim, it goes fast as you want. It's like turning a light bulb. Boom, done. But the problem they're having is the tires don't stay on the rims because they break the bead because it's so much torque. The brands have actually told me they've ripped tires in half trying to get the vehicle to go because they've actually had to, and I'm going to use a word that made whatever. I mean, they had to retard the system to improve it. There used to be with I'm going to say this differently because it's not a great word anymore, but with carburetors, there was advanced retard, and you would retard that back for the air gas flow mixture. And I think the same thing happened in the software of this application is that they've had to take the vehicle and actually not make it perform as fast as it can to make it actually drivable, is what I'm trying to say. Is that because EVs are so powerful, you literally can't drive them. I know that the R word causes lots of people concerns, but they had to make it backwards that you could actually drive it because it was so powerful they couldn't even drive it. So there's differences there that going on. But yeah, I mean, so I drove it all week, and all week it did fine. I didn't tow this week because I didn't have need to. I didn't have any concerns about. Once I did 220, I had no concerns about range. But you have to think things differently. So like tonight, I'm plugging in and I'm charging 100%. And the reason I'm doing that is 'cause tomorrow morning we're heading that trip to Denver, and so you need to plan ahead for your EV usage, which sucks because I hate planning. I have to
You
do
hate
it. Yeah.
planning? What?
So I have to, so it's like one of those things you have to plan ahead to be able to do those trips. And that is a fundamental shift in thinking. Yeah, so Tyler says, I feel like people forget about hybrids or plug-in hybrids. Don't have to go full EV for your first electrified vehicle. I would agree. I think it's disappointing that more brands aren't offering a plug-in hybrid truck. We're not
No brands are offering a plug-in hybrid truck.
right, and then
None. There is no plug-in hybrid truck.
and Toyota's hybrid is just better towing. I mean, it seems odd to me that happens, but that's the way it has happened. So, I do get a Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe next week, which has basically a plug-in hybrid, basically what it is, and so I think that works better than a full hybrid at this point. But it is interesting. It's been interesting conversations. Interesting. I've gotten people stopped over the house more often. I have had fun. I had my father-in-law and my youngest son in the truck one day, and we were driving through town. And I literally was just having fun. I was blowing by people like they were standing still, and my father-in-law was just laughing. He's like, you literally blew by the person not standing still. I'm like, yes, I did. And just, I mean, I was on I-80, and it was like, okay, I want to pass the semi. Boom.
So you're driving like Jill?
Yeah, really. I'm actually concerned about you in the EV. You might, I don't know. It may, you may actually have to slow down a little bit. It's kind of one of those things. So I mean, there's a lot of pluses to EVs. I've learned a lot this week. I think it's been a really informative week. I still don't know if we're going to get full adoption in my lifetime, but there's just challenges to them. But I think it's from an everyday standpoint, it's tough to argue against an EV at this point because not only practical reasons, why it heats up faster, it cools a little better in my opinion. Performance is there, the comfort ride, safety's there. I mean, lots of safety technology in those things. The ride comfort, people have been raving about the ride comfort in the Lightning. The quiet sound is a big thing with a lot of customers. I mean, so it's hard to argue with those things because from a metric standpoint, if you throw out towing and infrastructure, you basically, the EV destroys gas vehicles all day. It's usually more reliable, less moving parts. You have better performance. You have better horsepower, torque. You have better everything besides that. What about Denali EV? John Carmen is going to stir the pot on us. So while Jill was gone, I did fly to Detroit for about 14 hours, and I did check out the Denali EV. I don't know about that one. So Jill, let me ask you this: you came back and you were gone for 8 days. You completely
I
were
was
gone
for 14 days.
14 days. Okay, 14 days.
I'm glad you didn't miss me.
Okay, so you were gone 14 days.
Yeah.
And then you saw Denali EV news. So what was your initial reaction?
I mean, I knew it was coming. Like, there was no initial reaction. I was just
Right,
like,
but
Denali EV is going to be coming.
But I wrote the story, and you had not read the story because I had not been in contact with you.
Right.
And so you read my story. Did anything stand out to you?
I mean, I don't understand why GMC has two EV trucks that are going to cost more than $100,000. That to me seems like, now they're cannibalizing each other. That was the biggest thing that stood out to me, was just the fact that now you've got two trucks that are in the same brand that are going to be going head to head.
It does seem odd. I mean, so let me give you guys a little full disclosure here. I had flown to Detroit. I landed at 2 p.m., I got a phone call from GMC, yes, PR, saying that I'm sorry, GMC and Chevy these days are they don't want to mix, and you have to be very clear who you're talking to.
Kind of like Kia and Hyundai, they do not mix.
They don't. Yeah, it's really interesting these days. So I got a phone call saying that I could do the GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate or EV, excuse me, instead of 3:30, I could do like 2:30, but I couldn't get there at time because I was just landed. So I landed and skipped the hotel, went straight to the event, and started recording. And they had not actually, they kind of screwed up. They didn't send me the press release before I got there. So I literally had no idea what I was looking at. I just was kind of going off. I had to make a video. I was tired. I was jet laggy, whatever. I'm just going to do that. What's going to go on? So I did the video, and I got done. I'm thinking about the video more and more. And it's like, I like what they did, the exterior look. I like the fact it doesn't have so much chrome. I mean, chrome is like an overkill these days. That did a good job in the exterior. I mean, it's very avalanche-y, which is going to be what's going to be. And then, I mean, I just did not see enough to say $107,000 all day. And then they're like, well, we're going to sell out. And I'm like, of course you are.
Well, they're going to reserve out.
Yeah, reserve out. So I don't know. I'm interested to see AT4 because it'll have tow hooks and have the off-road capability. Interested to see elevation version. And I have a Silverado EV deposit down or reservation, whatever. So don't give me this. I don't like products because.
You're just doing it because. That doesn't mean that you like it or you don't like it. You're just doing it because.
Okay, enough of that. So moving on. But I mean, 400 miles range is legit, right? So a gas truck these days gets 500 miles range. I'm not giving up too much with a 400 mile range. Everybody's got the same idea. They have this, oh my gosh, unless it gets this XYZ range, I'm not going to buy anything. And so I was like, well, all right. So I don't know. So I want to go to Explorer. Can you pull up to Explorer, the one above Todd's comment?
Nope, I want to talk about this first.
All right, so Tom wants to know, what do you think about a company that changes out the battery pack rather than charging? There's a company that does that in China. I had tagged
Vietnam.
I was watching that quite a bit. Who's it?
Vietnam, VinFast.
Vietnam does that, but also there's a company in China that does that too.
Well, but the one that's coming to the United States like imminently is VinFast.
Right. Well, yes, but the one in China, actually, when you pull up, they drop the battery and then they replace the battery and drive off. So they're trying to make that option too, where you just drive into a place, they swap your battery they put you a charged battery versus a depleted battery and drive off. So I don't know if he's talking about that or he's talking about the
VinFast.
VinFast.
Yeah, I don't know. Good point.
It's a good
Fair
point.
I'll give you that one.
All right, Todd, you need to definitely clarify what's going on. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think eventually, as years go by, we'll have more capacity in batteries, and eventually it's going to be not a big problem. Wow.
And it will charge faster. I think when you can go to a charging station and charge within like 10 minutes and you're at like 80%, like I think that's a non-issue.
Yeah, I think eventually it's going to become a non-issue. Right now, it's an issue. It's definitely an issue. Don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing against it, whatever. It's an issue right now today, but eventually it may not be an issue. So 2Explore video says, hey, your video showed the truck parked outside. Those that park an EV inside have noticed the garage considerably cooler in the summertime. So I put a charger outside my house. I put the 220, and I put a plug outside my house.
Like outside of the driveway, or?
It's alongside the house. It's not in the garage. It's alongside the house. So
do you have to pull into your grass?
I have rock there. So I basically pull on the rock. I park vehicles on the rock there all the time, and I can plug in there. So a couple thought process on that. The reason I did the outside plug there was a couple reasons. First of all, I don't have a garage long enough to fit an F-50 Lightning. So I was like, I have the garage door open while I'm charging or just charge outside. I have some expensive tools in my garage I do not want to lose. And I trust my neighbors, but I don't want to lose the tools. So I'd rather have my garage door closed at night than open at night, was one of my thoughts. Second thought I have is I don't know what kind of vehicles I'm going to get in the future, right? So we have a Hummer in the fleet. We have more EVs coming, different shapes, sizes, and different charging ports and locations. So I don't know if I have the back end, I have to pull in, whatever I have to do. Because all the charging ports are all getting moved around these days. So I did a charger outside primarily because I just felt like the variety of vehicles coming, the things coming through, I don't know where I'm put the charger at. And the other thing is I can tap in the back of that charger, outlet plug, and I could put a plug in the inside of the garage too if I needed to. The difficulty there is I can't charge 2 vehicles at once if I do that because there's enough amperage on the circuit. So it's an interesting question, whether my wife charges or I charge if we have both our batteries depleted. That's gonna be interesting going back and forth. It's gonna be, I don't know, that's just part of reality. If every U.S. household, and we have 82 million households in the United States, if everyone has 2 cars in their household and each car needs to charge, well, you got to run 2 lines. So the work I did, I had to double. Well, my box doesn't really, I think I can do 1 more charger in my box. That's about it before I have to upgrade my box. So lots of interesting questions came up this week with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I put outside for the purposes. There is some questions about charging in the wintertime. And there's questions about charging in the winter and driving in the winter. I told my friend who I was talking to about this, I said, the battery pack being underneath the cabin, it may distribute the weight better and be better off in the wintertime. So you don't have big engine in front, empty bed in the back. Now you have weight more distributed. So I'm curious, right? So the Silverado EV I can't wait to drive in the wintertime because I want to see what it looks like as far as snow and how it charges. Heat and cold are the enemy of battery electric vehicles currently. And so I want to be curious about that. So that's most of the reason why I did that was also the fact that the 6-gauge wire was going on. So let me go calculator. I did 75 feet of 6-gauge wire, and I bought, it was $344. So 344 divided by 75 feet. So I had almost $4.50 per foot to run this wire. Well, you with 6-gauge wire, you can buy in 50 foot, 75 foot, 100 foot. And because the wire is so thick, you can't splice it, make it longer. And it loses some power as longer you go. And so I was at 75 feet, and that was, we were talking about this outside. Like, we ran the cable as long as we could, the wire. We're like, okay, this is where it ends up. This is where it ends up. That's what happens. Like, I can't buy more wire, and I'm not going to buy it for almost $5 a foot to add more wire. So that's kind of where I ended up. So when you buy 6-gauge wire, you really have to know where it's going to go. You have to measure it out completely to get the amount you need. So that's another reason why I was mounted outside, was if I ran it to the front of the garage, I'd run around the garage, this outside the garage door I had, just not full garage door, just like exterior door. Around the front, it would cost me easily another $200 to run that wire that much further. So there's real consideration on where you put the wire at. So Golf Kilo 4, great name. Or if your wife doesn't charge often, one vehicle can be plugged into 110, while the other is in 220, 240. I will tell you, the 110 argument was the biggest argument of the week. My Facebook exploded. I had friends dropping F-bombs. I didn't know they could type F-bombs. Argument was off the chain. It was just crazy. So what EV advocates have said is that 110 is basically emergency only charging. And they said, don't even bother using it if you're going to charge anything, you want to use anything. So 110 charging, I can get 2 to 3 miles more range per hour. With 220 charging, I get 20 miles more per hour of charging. It's a big freaking difference.
No, it is. And I mean, I have 110 at home, and but I have a Electrify America station a half mile from my house. So what I'll do, so I had the Genesis G80 EV a few weeks ago, so it's a sedan, and I didn't even charge it once because I'm living in the city. Like, I just didn't do anything crazy, and I turned it in, and I still had 200 miles of range on it. And so, I mean, I feel like if you were going to have a 2 EV household, your wife is probably, how much does she drive in a day?
See, I'd like to buy her an EV because
but how much does she drive in a day? Answer the question.
I would answer the question, but it's variables.
But give me a range. So Jonathan, my husband, drives anywhere from 50 miles to 200 miles in a day.
See, Heather drives anywhere from 5 miles to 350 miles a day because of her job.
So
but her job gives her a fleet vehicle when she leaves town.
Right. So
in town, EV all day.
EV all day. So here's the thing. So like you take like if my husband and I had a 2-car garage, he drives a lot more than I do. I drive maybe 5 miles a day to the gym and back. Unless I'm going to my parents' house, then I'm going to use public charging. So, you know, I wait until my battery is 20%, and then I would use the charger. And whereas he would be using it every night, and he would probably have to use some public stations like on days when he was doing a lot of driving. But you fall into a rhythm, I think. And like if I'm not like going a lot of if I'm going 5 miles, yeah, I'll come home, I'll plug into 110. Yeah, I'll charge up overnight because 5 miles. It's not going to take me that long. And then, you know, my husband would have the regular charger for the drives that he does. I mean, he goes out to the suburbs and then, you know, so like it's a 25-mile drive to his first stop. And then it's like 5 miles, 5 miles, 5 miles, and then 25 miles home. So, I mean, he'll drive anywhere from 50 to, like I said, 200 in a day. But most days it's going to be 50 miles.
Okay, I got one more question for you, and I'm going to go to my chair because I'm getting pretty tired. We're going to wrap this up.
I can see you starting to get sleepy.
I know I'm
getting sleepy.
Yes, I have chronic. If you follow the channel, I have chronic pain, and it causes lots of fatigue. So this is the time of night where I'm going to go sit and rest. But this came up a lot in the conversations. I want to ask you a question about this. So you're going to drive. So you drive an EV from your house to your parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your parents are very nice people. I've met your parents. I'm not going to.
Most days.
Yes. So. But the question came up on social norms on this. So imagine your parents are your friends. Say that they're the same age you are at 39 years old, and you drive to your friend's house and you party with them. But you are driving to Indianapolis. You can't go down with a single charge and drive back single charge. So your choices are to sit in the supercharger station or to ask your friends to help plug in your car. So if you ask your friends to help you plug in your car, social norms are they're basically giving you free gas in a way.
Okay, like $2.
But if they did 220, if they did 220, it'd be a little more than that. So the question that came up was like, do you leave $20 in a dresser? Like what's is it rude? People have said on this channel, they've said if you go to your friend's house and ask them to help charge your car, it's rude. And I've seen memes on this. I've seen people on this. So where you got that? So if you go to your friend's house, you say, hey buddy, if I plug in and we go out drinking and I get full charge and go home when we're done, whatever, is that cool?
Okay, so your friend comes over to dinner. Do you offer him a bourbon? Do you offer him a glass of wine? Because by the way, I have like $150 bottles of wine. That's going to be like $20 or $15 a glass. Like if you were in a restaurant, that'd be like a $50 glass wine. Do I let my friends drink my wine? Do I make them pay me money for it? No. I invited them over. I'm offering them hospitality. I'm going to give them a glass of bourbon. I'm going to give them a glass of wine. I'm probably even going to give them dinner. And by the way, like I don't buy inexpensive meat. Like every piece of meat I have is probably like $15. So am I going to make them pay me for that? No. In my opinion, charging at somebody's house is like offering somebody a glass of wine.
Okay. Jeff Rhodes, last real quick. He says, so I'm curious to know why no one is talking about the fact that the infrastructure in the country to handle EVs, this is a lot of going on back and forth behind the scenes. We talk about this quite a bit. I don't care about public infrastructure. I don't think that's the answer. I think private infrastructure in people's houses is the problem. I've said it many times. I don't know that we're ready for this. It feels very much. I agree, Jeff. Like we're being crammed down our throats with EV stuff. It's not really the case, but it definitely feels that way. I will say that the country's got a lot to expand, a lot to do, even in my neck of the woods, right? So I'm a newer home, and I was able to run my plug to my wall, and I had enough power to be able to do that. But I know our farm 20 miles away could never do 220 EV charging because they don't have the power. There's so many houses in this country that have 100 amps that it's going to be a long time. I agree with you, Jeff. I see the same stuff you see on the news, same stuff going on, news cycle, that kind of stuff. And I will tell you that it's very unfortunate. I have a video coming tomorrow about, I may publish it, whatever, about truths or lies when it comes to EV stuff. And I just feel like this whole announcements from politicians are the wrong. let's move towards this way because it's cheaper to run the vehicle. Let's move this way because it's more performance. We like the performance. Let's move this way because it's we don't have to smell the nasty gas stations or the creepos of the gas station. We don't have to worry about that stuff anymore, right? So let's move this way for real practical reasons. But it's going to take time to get to that way. This is not EVs. After my week of driving the Lightning, I've discovered that, not discovered, but reinforced the fact that EVs are good for some people. Jill could do an EV all day long. My wife could do an EV all day long. It work, right? But it's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be for everybody. So we're still going to have gas and diesel for many, many more years. You can't do shipping right now. You can't do trains right now. You can't do a long haul trucking right now without that. So I think we're going to have that for a while until we find new solutions. But the average fleet vehicle, or the average U.S. fleet right now is 14 years old. People are holding the vehicles longer. They're not changing them over as often. It's just going to take time.
I think that it's going to take less time than you think it's going to take, because when you look at, like, what is it? The first iPhone came out in 2007. And look at where we are now in terms of tablet, iPhone, phone, smartphone technology. I think that we're certainly at the beginning of, the Model T stage of electric infrastructure. But I think that once things start to go, they're going to go really fast. And I think that that everything is going to change a lot faster than you think. Do I think that everybody's going to be driving an EV by the time I die? No. But I think that a lot of it is going to be nostalgia. I think, do I think everybody's going to have an autonomous car by the time I die? No. I mean, we could go down that road too. But I think that there's going to be a mix on the roads. I think that there are going to be cities like Chicago that are going to have taxes or penalties or fines or fees to drive in a city if you have a diesel or a gas engine. I think that there is going to be, I think it's going to become very expensive to drive gas and diesel. I think the more economical and feasible way eventually, not now, not maybe in the next 10 years, is going to be driving an EV. But I think that technology is going to advance, it's going to change, and it's going to do it like that. It's going to do it on a dime. It's going to be very fast. And so I think we will see a proliferation of EVs in my lifetime. Do I think it'll be 100%? No. Do I ever think it'll be 100%? No. I mean, there are still 1953 Corvettes on the road. So, I mean, there's still like Model Ts on the road. So, do I ever think that it's going to be 100%? No. There's still going to be people who have gas vehicles for nostalgia. But where are they going to fuel up? Are they going to have a gas pump in their front yard for their own fueling? Because I think fuel stations are going to become fewer and far between. I think you're going to see the opposite problem, where you're going to have to plan to drive your gas vehicle, not your EV. Yeah. So, but I think it's going to happen a lot faster than you think, because technology, once something catches, it's like a wildfire and it just moves fast. So I think it's going to be a lot faster than you think.
There you go. There's our thoughts on the world. We solved all the world's problems tonight. We saved all the starving children in India. We are good to go. No, maybe close. All right. So check out more videos on this channel. We do good. I feel like we do some amazing work. I really want you guys to appreciate that stuff too. Again, BCG Construction. Check them out. Good thing for the super chat. Big thank you for that. Been a big fan of their channel for many, many years. Check us out on pickuptrucktalk.com. Social media as well. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you down the road.